Hello. Well, welcome to the New Health Conversation podcast. This is a podcast. It's not recorded, it's absolutely live. I'm the author and researcher, Peter Greenlaw. As you can see there, I've written 4 best-selling books. My first one called Why Diets Are Failing Us. That's what we're going to teach you about today. The fact that 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese and 50% are pre-diabetic, I think is a pretty good indication that diets really are failing us in the long run. But today we're going to show you why they're failing and what you can do about it if you choose to. Or you can continue to count calories and lose weight and be frustrated when you gain it all back every single time. There is no diet out there that's ever been proven long-term to be successful. All the medical proof, all the medical studies show that while counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. And what you'll see, with all due respect, with all these influences that are out there, they're giving you opinions. And what's their opinion? That the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Well, the medical proof doesn't support that anymore at all. From people like at Harvard Medical School, where they said that counting calories is not only antiquated, it's just obsolete. So hopefully you'll enjoy this podcast today, and hopefully you'll learn some things, and hopefully maybe you'll come away with a totally different understanding of what really is possible, and use it to maybe change the rest of your life, or not. Well, Gasket 26, hello, this is Peter Greenlaw. This is a live podcast. It's not recorded, about why diets are failing us and why you should stop counting calories, according to Harvard Medical School. There are new studies out there now that it took over 38 years to develop, where men and women are losing as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet without counting calories at all. The whole idea of counting calories has been completely made obsolete. Harvard Medical School even says, now this is my first book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. And we wrote in this book about the fact that the enemy's not calories. Why are we counting calories when the human body doesn't even know what a calorie is? This is what Harvard Medical School is saying. Stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. Harvard says we should be concentrating on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. Well, these new medical studies, there's 7 of them now that took over 38 years of research, and they've cracked the code. They've figured out that it's possible with no exercise to absolutely lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lose as much weight in 30 days as a year in any diet without any loss of water, and instead of losing lean muscle mass, which is the case on all diets, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. But that wasn't the good part. The good part was they were able to lower blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, and inflammation came down in just 30 days. This has never, ever been seen before. Look, I know it sounds like science fiction, but here's the good news. You'll notice we posted the New Health Conversation. That's a free medical website. You can go there. We won't contact you. There's nothing to buy there. There's no celebrity endorsements. It's just the medical proof. But if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free, and I mean free, personal consultation with one of our coaches. Our coaches are qualified. They've had to have done the protocol, and we've trained them how to coach you through. And that coaching is 100% free. You've never done anything like this before. No one's ever seen results like this before. I mean, how excited would you be? Most women lose a whole dress size in 7 days. Most men lose anywhere from 2 to 6 inches in their waist in 7 days with no exercise at all. Okay, well, anyway, this is the New Health Conversation podcast, and we are proud to bring to you medical proof of why diets are failing us, because they are. Diets simply are not working. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, they're just not working. And you should see there, it says you should stop counting calories according to Harvard Medical School. They go on to say that they said stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. And they said what we need to be concentrated on is what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. So, hello everyone. This is Peter Greenlaw. This is the New Health Conversation podcast, where we only bring you medical proof, of traditional diets and why they're failing us badly with 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, and 50% pre-diabetic. I mean, does anybody actually think that diets are working? And I have a big report here from the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in Baltimore, Maryland, where they're saying study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. What? They're saying if the current trend continues, they estimate 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030. They go on to say even more trouble in the author's note, if the current trend continues, by 2048, all American adults will become overweight or obese. So what's going on? Why are we losing? I mean, why are we losing this battle? It's getting worse every year. We have more diets than ever, more exercise, more opinions. And now you're seeing on the national news, they're coming on and recognizing that obesity is probably one of the biggest threats in the history of mankind. And what are we doing about it? See, the whole point, you should stop counting calories to lose weight. Harvard Medical School came right out and said, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not just antiquated, it's just totally wrong. And all the studies that we're going to share. So this book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, I'm the author of it, the researcher. Everything we share with you is medical proof. If you're really trying to lose weight, I don't want to be disparaging, but every single diet out there, you can lose weight. But the weight you're losing is incredibly unhealthy because what you're doing by lowering calories, you're lowering nutrition, and you set off the starvation mode in the body. You stop burning fat, and you begin to burn your muscle for fuel. And in so doing, your body doesn't have a choice. It has to slow down your metabolism, the amount of calories you can burn. That's why you plateau on diets. That's why you come off the diets, and that's why you gain all the weight back. And every study is another big study here that says why you shouldn't count calories. Listen to this. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. They go on to say, what's even worse, 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. This is a medical proof, not these, influences. With all due respect, they're giving you opinions. That's all they're giving you. I haven't seen one show you one shred of medical evidence until now. Well, the good news is there are 7 new peer-reviewed studies that were done by the top weight loss, nutrition, and physiology researchers in the world for 38 years. They've done 150 studies on every diet. And the bottom line is they figured out what didn't work. They created a whole new protocol that's totally different, has nothing to do with counting calories, completely different. Listen to this. Men and women, I'm not making this up, lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet. They lost no water weight and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Now, I don't want you to believe me, despite the fact I've written 4 best-selling books, did 20 shows on PBS. But on our website, which I posted there for free, it's the medical proof, the new health conference. You'll see the medical studies. You'll see an interview with the #1 weight loss and physiologist in the world for 38 years, was the head scientist who headed up all these studies. It took him 38 years to figure this out. The proof is overwhelming. There are now 7 medical human trial studies on human beings, not on mice, not on rats, but on human beings. I mean, the experts are now saying, including the researchers, this will obsolete every diet you're on. So time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, paleo, keto, carnivore, none of them work in the long run. They don't. I mean, I'll read to you from the New England Journal of Medicine. They did a 12-month study on lowering calories, okay? 12 months. They had one group of people who just lowered calories over the course of a year. The other group did this intermittent fasting, which you're seeing a lot of people talk about it, right? What were the real results medically? After 12 months, the people who went on a lowering calorie diet lost in a year 16 pounds. Those who did intermittent fasting, where you don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8, they lost a pitiful 12.6 pounds in a year. And right in the study, they said both those on time-restricted eating and those reducing calories lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. Well, you're going to gain all your weight back. There's no way around it. So this is a major, I don't know how to, I don't have adjectives big enough. This is going to change everything. And look at the news now. They're talking about toxic chemicals in our world, the deficiency of our food, the obesity pandemic. My gosh, here's Johns Hopkins Medical School. The title of this is study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030 in less than 6 years, where they're estimating if the current trend continues, they're saying 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030. What are we doing? We're believing what doesn't work. We're defining the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over. All we do is change the name. Whether it's paleo, whether it's keto, whether it's time-restricted. Time-restricted eating is just, okay, you eat for 8 hours and you don't eat for 16 hours. Code word, you're eating less food. Nonsense. I watched them talk about it. And they talked about, well, you can eat, we don't restrict calories. We don't count calories. You can have whatever. They didn't mention one word about what's in the calorie, which is the only thing that matters to our body. Yeah, I get really animated about this because this is, for 21 years, I've been a nutritional researcher, and I'm the researcher of the researchers, not my research. But I'm bringing you this research on that website that's free to go there. It's free, okay? Oh, wow. Actually, Matt's fit mind, no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, to blow your mind, Matt's, in the studies, no one was allowed to exercise, not one bit of exercise. They were Fitbits, okay? Based on any diet, nutrition, resistance training, etc., they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks on any of those programs. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any of those diets. They lost, not only didn't they lose lean muscle with no exercise allowed, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass and lost no water weight. You can look and see the proof, not a statement on my part, not hyperbole, not an infomercial. Go to the website and look at the medical proof. It'll blow your mind, blow your mind. Now, the researchers weren't against resistance training, weren't against lifting weights, but they eliminated it from the studies because they wanted to make sure it wasn't a factor. No one has ever seen these kind of, and resistance training, by the way, doesn't do anything for example, inflammation in the body, which is the underlying cause of every disease out there. It went down 25% in 30 days. People's blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides all came down in just 30 days. If resistance training worked, if lifting weights, if any of this stuff, running, exercise worked, how could we have 80% of America overweight today? 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. And then Johns Hopkins Medical School comes out and says, study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. Where they're saying if the current trend continues, 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese by 2030. And then they go on and note, even more troubling, by 2048, all American adults will become overweight or obese. Not against resistance training, of course, I wouldn't be nuts. But exercise is not a diet, and exercise doesn't work for losing weight. Sorry to tell you that. Because the whole diet thing is completely wrong. It has nothing to do with calories. The human body doesn't know what a calorie is. Why are we counting calories? Because someone told us to. So here's what remember, these are the top nutritional weight loss and physiologists in the world. They've worked with Green Berets and Navy SEALs and CrossFit people and marathoners and triathletes, etc. So they're not against exercise. But they did exercise and diets for 38 years, 150 studies. People lost weight every time. Didn't matter what it was. But it was the wrong kind of weight. It was so unhealthy, which we now know, that when you go on a diet, I don't care which one it is, whatever name you want, you're losing between 25 and 40% of your lean muscle. That's what you're losing. Not fat. Look at the pictures of people that lost 100 pounds. Sadly, their stomachs hanging down to their knees. The only thing they lost was lean muscle. They didn't lose any fat because the body has a floor, a minimum amount of nutrition that we need. And you're a workout person, obviously. You know that over 80% of a workout is not the workout itself. It's the nutrition. This is monumental. I mean, we can pretend it's not going to happen to us, but we're saying in less than 6 years, only 14% of America won't be overweight or obese. I guess there'll be long lines at the gyms. I mean, I am the canary in the coal mine. I'm sounding the alarm. I'm trying to explain to all of you. That was my first book, a huge bestseller, Why Diets Are Failing Us, back in 2010. Now, we've done 2 or 3 updates since then, but we've also learned incredible new science that wasn't available when I first started back in 2003. Here's what we learned. Number one, we're all suffering, including my workout friends here. You're suffering, whether you know it or not, from the TDOS syndrome. T is for toxicity, the D is for deficiency, the O is for overweight, and the S is for stress. This is a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. Let me explain to you why that's so important. When you go to try and get a registered trademark, especially in the medical world, the U.S. Patent Office searches the world for anything that's similar to what you're claiming, your intellectual property, okay? It takes a long time. It costs a lot of money. I'm proud to say I discovered this medical syndrome. We have the registered trademark from the U.S. Patent Office. This is a really big deal. Now, why is that so important? Because you and me and my workout friends and my vegan friends and we're all breathing and drinking chemicals, whether you believe it or not. They actually have a name. I'm going to explain to you right now why they're the main reason you're gaining weight on something you've never, ever heard of before. But you're starting to hear about it on the news, finally, after 20-some years, okay? The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and the clinical practice of endocrinology. They say the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrial chemicals. These chemicals have a name. They call them obesogens. Have you ever heard of obesogens before today, before this podcast? Let me go on to tell you how bad they are. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our bodies from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones in animals, plastics in food packaging, chemicals added to processed foods, and pesticides sprayed on our produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones such as estrogen, blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. What are you doing about obesogens? Did you even hear about them before today? With all due respect to my workout people, your workout's doing nothing about obesogens. They've measured there are no toxins in sweat. Well, in these 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies where they did blood, they did stool, they did urine and fat analysis, they proved that this protocol, first and foremost, the main reason to do it, they had the proof that this was assisting our own body in removing herbicides and pesticides and chemicals from our visceral fat. That's the fat around the organs. That's where the body's storing these chemicals. It's not up for debate. That's not my opinion. I mean, this is the, and I'll read from another world expert. His name is Frederick von Saal, professor of biological science, University of Missouri, Columbia. Obesogens are hijacking the regulatory system that controls our body weight. He goes on to say, this presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low-carbohydrate, low-calorie diets been forced to accommodate for this level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. What are you doing about obesogens? Is Jenny Craig dealing with that? Or no, none of these diets have ever. The only thing you're losing on a diet is your lean muscle mass. Well, about 40% of it. Sad to say. Look, how could we have 80% of today? 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, and then John Hopkins' study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. They're saying that 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese in less than 6 years. Does anybody think this is working? What are you doing? What are we doing? We have all these influences, with all due respect. Every one of them is telling you basically the same thing with a different name. The only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Well, let's go to Harvard Medical School. Stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. That's Harvard Medical School going on to say what matters is not how many calories we're ingesting, but what's in the calories. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can go out and just, hey, you can go to Barnes & Noble. There's so many diets, it's crazy. I mean, it really is. But we have things like study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. Do you really think? What are you doing? You're going to lose weight. I don't care. You can go lose weight on the Dunkin' Donut diet. I'm not kidding you. But it's so unhealthy because when you lose lean muscle mass, which all the medical proof, study after study after study now is proving, yeah, you're losing weight on any of these diets. Fad diet, crash diet, diet and exercise. I don't care what it is. You're losing 25 to 40% of your lean muscle. It's one of the most unhealthy things you could ever do because not only are you slowing down your metabolism, your ability to burn calories, but you're also interfering with your own immune system. The loss of lean muscle definitely limits or reduces the effectiveness of your own immune system. Now, again, I want you to understand that this book, my 4th book, Your Third Brain, I wrote it with, you can't see the picture, I know, with the top oncologist in the world who's also a molecular biologist. And he told me that the one thing they know for sure in cancer that they don't want people to do is to lose weight because the loss of the weight is almost, 40% or more is lean muscle mass, which interferes with their immune system. This is much more than fitting in your skinny jeans. You can follow whoever you want to follow, but are they showing you one shred of medical evidence? Did they tell you about obesogens? Did they tell you that, for example, that up to 40% of what you're losing on any of the diets they're telling you about is lean muscle mass? Let's talk about, this intermittent fasting, time restricted eating. You don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8. It's supposed to be so great, right? Okay. Well, let's look at a study done in the Journal of the American Medical Association. It's a recent study. And they said people that were doing time restricted eating where they didn't eat for 16 hours and for 8 and ate for 8 hours gained almost no benefit from it. Now remember, this is the Journal of the American Medical Association. They don't have a dog in this hunt. They're doing the analysis for mankind, basically, okay? They went on to say that people lost in 3 months 2 to 3 pounds, and the majority of what they lost was not fat, but lean muscle mass. So what are they telling you? They're giving you an opinion. But this is medical proof. I just read to you the New England Journal of Medicine did a 12-month study on intermittent fasting. In a year's time, they lost 12.6 pounds. That's a pound a month. Now, I'm not saying initially maybe they lost 80% of that weight in the first 2 or 3 weeks, but then it stops. Because when you lose lean muscle, your body, you have no control of it. Your brain goes, not enough, emergency, we don't have enough fuel here. We're running out of fuel. So what does it do? It goes and looks for nutrition, not calories. And it breaks your muscles down into carbohydrates. And as a result, it slows your metabolism down. Am I making any sense? Really, Lisbon? I'm not saying anything. Really? We're talking about 7 peer-reviewed. Well, then go have a nice afternoon. Okay, I'll take you out of your misery. Okay, you can go and do your program on counting calories, and you'll find right away that they don't work because they don't. So have a nice degree. Happy. What's the website? Okay, the website, I'm going to put it up here for everybody right here. Control V. You'll see it right there. So there's the website to go. The New Health Conversation. You can go there for free. Okay. Here's what I'm telling you. When people come on and make ridiculous comments, okay, I'm not saying anything. I just explained to you that we have 7. I've explained why diets are failing us. So if you have some other opinion and think diets, study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. Johns Hopkins Medical School saying 86% of America is going to be overweight in less than 6 years. I think you'd want to listen. Because now what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain what did they do? How did they do this? You have to understand there is no other diet, nutrition, supplement, whatever heck program you're on right now, that on their own initiated peer-reviewed human trial studies until now. These researchers who did 150 studies over 38 years looking at every diet out there, they came to 3 conclusions. 1, no matter what the diet was, people lost weight initially. Number 2, up to 40% of what people lost was a lean muscle mass. And number 3, they gained all their weight back. Didn't matter what the diet was. There's another big study here that, I'm not saying anything. Why you shouldn't count calories. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. Really? So let's talk. Now, the only reason I gave you all the background on this is to show you that the researchers figured out what didn't work. And here's what didn't work. On every diet they did out of 150 studies over 38 years, every time they were lowering the amount of food people were consuming. That's all a diet is. This thing about calories is nonsense. The human body doesn't even know what a calorie is, all right? So, but the body has a minimum amount of nutrition that we need. When you, in essence, reduce the amount of food you're consuming on any diet, you're reducing what? Nutrition. When you reduce nutrition and the brain figures out there's not enough fuel, it goes into starvation mode, stops you from burning fat, and goes and looks for nutrition. And where does it find it? In your muscles. The researchers knew this. So here's what they did. They said, is it possible? It was a theory. They don't sell anything. They're scientists. What they said was, can we lower the quantity of food we're consuming, but not lower the amount of nutrition? This was a pretty big conundrum, right? So what they did, they limited, because in all the studies over the past 38 years, they'd relied obviously like on organic, all the food they were giving people, even in a reduced amount, was from, domestic sources in North America. Well, they realized that our food in North America is becoming really nutritionally deficient, whether you know it or not. You take an orange from 30 years ago today to get equal the same nutrition, you need about 6 oranges, you need about a dozen apples. And Cornell University did a study on spinach from 1953 to today, where they estimate that the iron levels in spinach have decreased by 4,300%. So this whole nonsense about, oh, I eat healthy, to a degree you do, but not to the degree you actually need. So the researchers, they developed a grocery list of domestic foods, fats, proteins, carbs, etc., that you would get. But the other 60%, what they did, in their mind, they created what's called the world's most perfect meal. And what they concentrated on was not the amount of calories, but the minimum amount of nutrition. So was it possible to give people less food, but way more nutrition? Well, how did they solve it? They found other researchers who, for the last 25 years, had found sources, not available in the store, that had massive amounts of nutrition, not massive amounts of calories. So let me go over what's in the world's most perfect meal that the research, that's what they use in these studies. I mean, again, any diet out there, imagine, women lose a whole dress size in 7 days with no exercise. Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And in the first month, their hunger went down by 41%. 41, because there were people also that needed to lose, 100 pounds or more, whatever it was. There were people that needed to lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds or 40 pounds, right? So the very first thing we're the most deficient in are what are called trace ionic minerals. You need 70. Now, you've already heard of iron, calcium, magnesium, right? Of the 70 trace minerals, the things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and selenium. In the best organic, you get 15 to 20 minerals. So if you're going to build the world's most perfect meal, you certainly would want the 70 trace minerals. The researchers found a source that had all 70 trace ionic minerals. Number two, the thing you need the most, they're called the building blocks of life, and those are amino acids. You've probably heard the term. Maybe you know what they do. We get amino acids from inside of a protein, from a plant protein or an animal protein. So you hear these researchers, these influencers telling you, well, you need 120 grams of protein a day. No, you don't. That's nonsense. In Europe, they developed tests through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, where when you ingest protein from a plant or an animal, you get all 20 amino acids. 9 are called essential, meaning you have to get them from your diet. 11 are non-essential, right? When they measured, for example, plant-based protein, they were looking not the fact they were getting all 20, what percentage of the 20, 0 to 100 absorption was benefiting the body. Well, they found on vegan proteins it was 10% out of 100. 90% of a plant-based protein was toxic waste that the kidneys had to get rid of. I know it's shocking. I don't mean to make vegans mad, but this is the reality of what they found. All meat, steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., they found 30% absorption. Well, they found a source where the absorption of the amino acids was 91%. Again, they're developing the world's most perfect meal. Notice, we're not talking about calories. We're talking about nutritional density, okay? Third thing, they found an electrolyte. Not a Gatorade, not a Powerade, nothing against those. But this one, no sugar, no artificial sweeteners, was really, really powerful. The fourth thing they did, they found or used what are called adaptogens. Adaptogens come from Russia and Mongolia, and the Russians and the East Germans used them in track and field back in the 60s to kick our butt in track and field. What they do, they lower stress and they lower inflammation in the body. So their athletes could run 100 yards or 100 meters, come back, rest 10 minutes, and then run a 220. In the medical studies, we have the proof that inflammation came down by 25%. There's no meal you're having now that's lowering inflammation in your body that's ever been tested, okay? And the last thing they found were massive doses in this food element of natural vitamins, not synthetic. Most people, there are many vitamin supplements on the market. They're all made in laboratories. They're synthetic, okay? So now, the world's most perfect meal consisted of what? All 70 minerals, 91% absorption of aminos, the electrolyte, the adaptogens, and these natural vitamins. So then they did 2 completely different ways of consuming the food. So it wasn't just the ingredients, it was how they consumed it, right? So how they consumed it was based on, the first concept was called protein pacing. They did it 5 days a week. In the studies, that's what they did. Every week, 5 of the days, they were doing protein pacing. Protein pacing, they started their morning with the world's most perfect meal for breakfast. They had a regular lunch from the grocery store list that you would get. You get a dinner from the grocery list, and then the fourth meal of the day, not dessert, is the world's most perfect food. So you start your day with this world's most perfect food that they created. Okay, they did create it. I mean, they didn't find the sources, but they put them together. By the way, when they started, this was a theory. They didn't know it was going to work, right? So then 5 days a week, protein pacing, 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not fasting and not intermittent fasting and not time-restricted eating, nothing to do with that. What were the results? Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet ever studied. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Now, I know what you're saying. How did they gain lean muscle mass without exercise? Because the way the body needs one of the 20 amino acids in order to effectively make muscle in your body. It's called leucine. You can look it up. So imagine they were getting 91% of leucine. And that's why they eliminated exercise. They wanted to see what would it do if people got 91% of leucine, right? Along with everything else. It wasn't just, remember, it's not just the amino acids. It's the amino acids, it's the minerals, it's the electrolyte, it's the adaptogen, it's these natural vitamins. Two things, if you did decide to do it. You can go to the website, it's 100%. I love that. Who wants to live the life counting calories? Exactly. Well, this is not about counting calories. There's nothing. Look, you're smart, Mark. The human body doesn't know what a calorie is. Why are we counting calories? It's a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. Imagine if you didn't have to worry about that. If you just could consume, like I said, the world's most perfect meal, even if you did it once a day. It's giving you the nutrition that we need, not the calories. That's what's so upside down about all these crazy diets. I'm going to put it up here again for everybody. The free website with all the medical proof, Donna Kay and everybody else, it's there for you to go and see the medical proof. I don't want you to believe Peter Greenlaw because I'm the researcher of the researchers. It's not my research. Okay, you can see it there. I promise if you go there, we won't contact you. No way. None of my books are there. There's nothing to buy. It's just the medical proof and an interview with the number one nutritional weight loss and physiologist in the world for 38 years who headed up the teams that did these analysis over 150 studies in 38 years, who came up with this theory. Could we create a way for humans to consume less food by quantity, but not suffer the quality of the nutrition? They did it. They proved it. It was a theory. I mean, how excited would some of you be? I mean, are you telling me you'd be disappointed? If you could lose as much weight safely in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, aren't you a little bit curious? I understand you're skeptical, but you have to understand, when you have peer-reviewed human trial studies, they've already been reviewed by the top medical doctors and researchers in the world who have one purpose. When you submit your study, not my study, but the studies, 7 of them, to these big medical journals like the Obesity Journal, Nutrition Journal, Frontiers in Nutrition, Nutrients, and there were a couple more. But anyway, the studies are on the website. And the interview, a live interview, not live, but an interview you can watch with the number one nutritional researcher physiologist in the world. Most people that go there are shocked. They can't believe it. How come nobody's talking about this? We're talking about it. Well, number one, the medical studies only became available really in the last year. Best-selling books, Why Diets Are Failing Us, the TDOS Syndrome, TDOS Solutions, and my 4th book, Your Third Brain. Wrote them all with MDs, some of the top medical doctors in the world. But for 20 of those years, it didn't mean a thing in the medical community. Zero. No one would even look at this. Why? Because there was no evidence. There was no peer review. See, we're going on blind faith. We're listening to these influencers. And what are they giving you? Their opinion. And with all due respect, there's medical doctors, there's chiropractors, there's dietitians, nutritionists, fitness, weight loss coaches, fat loss coaches. Have they ever showed you one shred of medical evidence? One shred? I've never seen it. Do they offer you to do free personal consultations? The website is completely transparent. In other words, you don't have to sign up for free consultation to see the medical proof. We don't want to convince you. We don't want to sell you. It's way too tiring. But if you go to the website and you like what you see, you can sign up for a free consultation with one of our coaches who's done the protocol and has been trained to answer all your questions. And if you do decide to through and do the protocol, then they'll be your coach, the same person who interviewed, not somebody an 800 number that's checking off boxes. They've done it themselves, right? The second thing, those 5 foods that I talked about that create the world's most perfect meal from the fulfillment companies who supplied them to the researchers. The researchers don't sell anything, so they don't have a dog in this hunt. They're researchers. And one of the things they have to do, of course, when they agree, when a big journal agrees to publish their work, you have to sign a release that you have no control. Once you give them the data, you're done. You have to step back and whatever they find. So the reason you won't see these companies doing peer-reviewed human trial studies, because would you be excited if you did time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting for a year to lose 12.6 pounds and 40% of what you're losing is lean muscle mass, despite what they're telling you? They keep telling you this stuff. They have no proof. And the thing is, like I said, I've spent 21 years of my life as a nutritional researcher. This book was a huge bestseller in 2010. Lots of critics. People went nuts because we were talking about the Holy Grail. We said, why are we counting calories? The enemy's not calories. I mean, instead of counting calories, why aren't we making every calorie count? Well, finally, Harvard Medical School, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. Harvard Medical School saying what matters is not about the calorie, but what's in the calorie. Well, that's what the researchers did. Look, I know you're skeptical. I do. And I see, the comments, right? Yes, Lisa, you're exactly right. Michael, I'm late and it's been clarified. I apologize, but no, not intermittent fasting. Oh my gosh, no, Michelle. Absolutely not. It's the worst thing you could ever do. And I got the medical proof right here. So let's look at intermittent fasting. Let's first look at the Journal of the American Medical Association, a new study just published. Right from them, they said people in the study doing intermittent fasting gained almost no benefit from it. And after 3 months, the average weight loss was 2 to 3.5 pounds, but the majority of what they lost was lean muscle mass, not fat. Okay, that's only 3 months. Let's look at a 12-month study, New England Journal of Medicine on intermittent fasting, right? After 12 months, they had 2 groups of people. Now, this was done by the New England Journal of Medicine, okay? One of the most prestigious medical journals in the world. Not by the people promoting intermittent fasting, let's be clear. After 12 months, they had 2 groups of people. One group just lowered calories, nothing to do with intermittent fasting, and the other group did intermittent fasting. After 12 months, those people lowering calories lost 16 pounds in a year. Those people doing intermittent fasting lost 12.6 pounds in a year, and both the group who lowered calories and those doing intermittent fasting lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass, and of course, they gained all the weight back. Not to, Michelle, it's one of the most unhealthy things you could ever do. And again, I'm not disparaging anybody. I know you've got people in there telling you how great intermittent fasting. Are they showing you one shred of medical evidence? Also, are they doing anything to talk about the TDOS syndrome, which you and me and every person in the world has? What the heck is TDOS? Stands for toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, overweight, and stress. We are storing chemicals inside our fat cells. No diet has ever been tested to remove even a gram of a toxin from our body till now. In these new studies, see, weight loss, it's almost like we tell you, that's just a given. I mean, Michelle, men and women with no exercise lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days. So they lost 16 pounds in a year, which intermittent fasting, they only lost 12.6 pounds in a whole year. The people in the study with no exercise, they lost 16 pounds in a month. And instead of losing water, they didn't, but also instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Look, we have a terrible problem on our hands. I read this before, Johns Hopkins Medical School. The study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. In less than 6 years, they're saying if the current trend continues, 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030. They go on to say even more troubling. By 2048, all American adults will become overweight or obese. Do you really think intermittent fasting's working? Do you think paleo's working, keto's working, time-restricted eating, fasting, Jenny Craig Weight Watchers? How could you have these kind of numbers? It's 80%, right as we sit today, 80% of Americans overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. In 6 years ago, in 2018, obesity was only 42%. So it's grown from 42% to 50% in 6 years, about a 25% increase. But we keep believing because that's all we have to go on. What our goal at the New Health Conversation was to give you an alternative, at least to go and see, but we have medical proof. None of those, they have no medical proof. They have opinions. And unfortunately, when you look at all the data on all the studies, at the end of the day, 25 to 40% of everything you're going to lose on any diet is your lean muscle mass. That's why these 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies by the world's top researchers in weight loss, nutrition, and in health. They did 150 studies on intermittent fasting, on every diet out there. And people lost weight all the time, but they found that 40% of what people lost was lean muscle mass, and they all gained all their weight back. It makes no sense because the point is that this TDOS syndrome is one of the major underlying conditions why we're gaining weight. Those diets have no impact on it. In these studies where they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this was assisting the body in removing herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and even plastics from the body. Now we're talking. And keep in mind, Michelle, no one was allowed to exercise. Most women lost a whole dress size in 7 days with no exercise. Now, the researchers weren't against exercise, but they didn't want it to be part of the studies because it would have skewed it, okay? Now, again, let me review again, and move daily who wants to, yeah. Right, okay, I'm late, it's been clarified, okay. Okay, were there any, I'm just making sure I didn't miss any other comments because I've been concentrating on what I've been saying here. What's the website, which book? Again, Happy Mom, I don't want you to buy my book. You don't need to buy my book. That's why we set up the free website. You can see it there, the New Health Conversation, where you can go not just see the medical proof, but an interview with the top weight loss researcher in the world for 38 years has conducted 150 studies, okay? Walking is definitely one of the best exercises, but exercise, diet and exercise, even if you're walking, doesn't work in the long run according to all the studies, okay? Yeah, I love that, Lisa. The food barely has nutrition in it. Maybe that's why exactly why you're overeating. Okay, let's see what else. So again, let me summarize for everybody. I know there's new people that have come on. So the key to health is supplying the body with enough nutrition. Unless you do that, any scheme you have, try, do, is doomed to failure. Evidenced by the numbers, 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. So, you know, people always want me to rush through this. I'm not rushing through it. This is real medical science. For many of the researchers now believe, and medical doctors, that the biggest crisis facing humanity since the dawn of time is obesity. You watch, you're seeing it starting really within the last week. They're talking about toxic chemicals. They're talking about the deficiency of our food. They're talking how the food, companies basically conspired to basically make us fat. And so it's kind of like now we're overweight, we're sick, and then we have, and I'm not against drugs. Thank God we have them. When we got, we have so many people that are diabetic, but here's the other scary part. And we only give you medical proof. We don't give you opinions. Listen to this new study where they said between 2012 and 2022, the rate of type 2 diabetes has increased by 20%, according to a study recently published in Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism. I mean, we have 50% pre-diabetic right now. And if Johns Hopkins, they're saying in 6 years, we're going to be at 86% overweight or obese, that diabetic number is only going to go up. I mean, it's increased 20% in 10 years. That's insane. That's crazy. But you look at all the disease, what's going on? Well, our food has become more and more abundant, okay? In other words, we have more and more calories, but we have less and less and less nutrition. The researchers knew that. That's how they developed this. Again, for the new people, we're talking about why traditional diets are failing us. Any form of counting calories, including Harvard Medical School saying, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in and a calorie out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They said we need to concentrate on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. They're recognizing now that what we've been, could any of you argue, tell me that what we're doing is working? What would it be? Because the measure for me is not people coming on and saying, hey, I lost 50 pounds. I say, great. Let's see where you are 6 months or a year from now. Do you really think if you're on a diet right now and whatever weight you're losing that a year from now you're going to weigh less than you do now or more? Because again, this is the big study, why you shouldn't count calories. I mean, how many of these studies do you need to see that stop this nonsense? Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. From the study, while counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. Why are you doing intermittent fasting? Why are you doing carnivore? Why are you doing Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, And then they go on to say what's even worse, that 2/3 of people, 66 and 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict their calories gain back more weight than they lost. What are we doing? We got lots of influencers with fancy websites and all kinds of titles after their names. They don't have one shred of medical evidence. But when that's your only alternative, if you're desperate to lose weight, or even if you want to lose 10 or 15 or even 20 pounds, or you just want to have more energy, you're looking for the best influencer to give you the best story about something that cannot and does not work. Why diets are failing. And listen, if you go to the website, there's no books to buy there. We're not selling you books. We're giving you access to knowledge and information. Well, how excited would you be if you could lose as much weight in a week as in 8 weeks of dieting safely? Or how about losing as much weight in a month as a year of any diet with no loss of water and gaining, not losing lean muscle, 6 to 9%. So would anybody like to put any other questions or challenges in the chat for me? You notice the new health conversation. Let me repeat again. That's a free medical website. You can go there. Everything there is free to see. There's no celebrity endorsements. There's nothing to buy. None of my books are there. It's all the medical proof. I realize you're skeptical. Most people are. I wouldn't disagree with that. But you have to understand that the reason, and so many people tell us, I've tried everything. Yeah, you've tried everything that really was a diet. There was just some form of lowering the amount of food you were consuming. Never concentrating, never telling you that the key was not calories, because the human body doesn't know what a calorie is. It wasn't the fact you were lowering the food you were consuming. It was that you were by lowering the food, you were lowering nutrition. The researchers literally, they found researchers who for the last 25 years had searched the world for foods that you can't buy in your grocery store that had massive amounts of nutrition, not massive amounts of calories. They were untainted by herbicides and pesticides. And the research that was done, not by the people who did the studies, but by the researchers who found these foods from all over the world, from places like Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, from Tibet and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. I mean, you can have whatever opinion you want. Go down and buy organic today. But here's one of the things you're the most deficient in. They're called trace ionic minerals. You need 70. In the best organic they've measured, you get 15 to 20 minerals. Now, 100 years ago, all 70 minerals were in the soil. But effectively what's happened over the course of, and I don't fault the farmers. They're using herbicides and pesticides to feed us. But what the Achilles heel to all that was, where they were wrong, it wasn't about giving people more food. It wasn't about giving them more calories. It was about giving them more nutrition. Here's a better example. What did they really do in the studies? They found 5 food groups from around the world that ended up what the researchers called the world's most perfect meal, okay? It did include all 70 minerals. It included an absorption of amino acids. If you know much about amino acids, we need 20. There are 20. 9 out of 20 are essential. You have to get them from your diet. And they're responsible essentially for remaking us. That's why they call the building blocks of life, okay? And you get amino acids from a plant or an animal, and they'll tell you, the influencers will say, hey, have 120 grams of protein a day. Well, in Europe about 8 years ago, they blew that to smithereens. You think you're getting 120 grams of protein, you're getting 120 grams of protein in your body. In Europe, through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, when you ingested protein from a plant or an animal, you got all 20 amino acids, let's be clear. But then they measured the percentage that was absorbed in the body. That's a simple way to explain it. It's a little more complicated than that. It's called it's called protein synthesis, but let's not worry about that. Just think about absorption. Well, what they found when they looked at plant-based proteins, the absorption of the 20 amino acids was only 10%. Excuse me. When they looked at all meat, steak, chicken, liver, fish, it was 30%. The researchers found a source with 91% absorption of aminos. Then they found an electrolyte, the best one in the world. Then they found these what are called adaptogens from Mongolia and Manchuria that massively lower inflammation and stress in the body. Gosh, and hold on. And the last thing were these naturally vitamins. So now they had the food, 40% from the grocery store. You get a grocery list if you do this, and these other 5 foods that make up your perfect meals. And then 5 days a week, they had people do the consumption. One was called protein pacing, where you had the world's most perfect food for breakfast, no other food from the grocery store, lunch from the grocery store, dinner from the grocery store, and then a 4th meal, the world's most perfect meal. So you bookended in the morning and at night. You had the most, basically what you were getting was massive doses of nutrition, not massive doses of calories. Then 2 days a week, unlike intermittent fasting, this has no resemblance to it, they did intermittent nutritional fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store, and they consumed the world's most perfect meal 4 times a day, like every couple of hours. Nothing to do with fasting, nothing to do with intermittent fasting. And when we compare that intermittent fasting, in a year's time, people lost 12.6 pounds and lost up to 40% of the lean muscle mass. And then when you compare what they did in these studies where men and women with no exercise lost 16 pounds in a month, lost no water weight, and instead of losing up to 40% of the lean muscle mass, which occurred on every intermittent fasting, paleo, keto, didn't matter what the diet was, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. They lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all in 30 days. And for the first time ever, they proved in the studies this lowered inflammation. And in case you didn't know, inflammation is the underlying cause of every disease out there. It came down 25% in 30 days. People's hunger came down 41% in 30 days, which makes sense because this had nothing to do with the quantity of the food. It had to do with the density. So it'd be as if you could go to the gas station today and you have a choice. You can pay, like, let's say $4 a gallon for a gallon of gas. It'll take you 20 miles. Or you could pay $5. Again, I'm just using that as an example. It's not the equivalent, okay? You could pay $5 and go 100 miles. Well, obviously, your car's going to last a lot longer. You have a lot less pollution. The body is a machine. So the longevity studies are clear. The less quantity of food you consume, it can lead to a much longer life. And someone put a great comment in there about the fact that obviously our food is making us starving to death. That's exactly right. Do you know we have according to the Learning Channel, we have over 2 million people now in this country that weigh over 500 pounds? Are you kidding me? And look, I know lest you think I'm, fat shaming or anything, my own mother was morbidly obese my whole life. And 23 years ago, she called me up with a phone call that really led me to become, ultimately became a researcher. She said to me, one day, she said, Peter, I have one really big wish in my life. I said, Mom, what would that be? She said, I just wish I could figure out some way if I could just spend 24 hours thin. I said, Mom, that's great. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. I loved my mom. She was friggin' awesome. I can't tell you what I would have done if I could have known about this maybe 23 years ago. I believe, and my mom did every diet there was. I mean, let's be clear. She did Optifast. She did Weight Watchers for years. Nothing against Weight Watchers. She did the South Beach diet. She did the grapefruit diet. She did cabbage soup diet. She'd cut diets out of the National Enquirer. Maybe some of you can relate. She was suffering in quiet desperation. She went on, I think she probably lost and gained a few tons in her lifetime. I'm not kidding you. So she'd lose 20 pounds and gain 25 back, lose 25, gain 30 back, over and over and over again. And of course, now we know based on the evidence that one of the things that happens on diets is that you're decreasing your lean muscle mass. Interesting. Our heart's a muscle. You all have a chance. My mom never did. You get to hit the reset button. Don't let your skepticism, you're fighting harder for your limitations because your belief is based on what? What's it based on? And maybe right now you've lost 20, 30 pounds, but if 66 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict their calories are gaining back more weight than they lost, that should be a concern for you. This is the solution that these researchers had looked for 38 years. You understand, they don't sell a product. They don't have anything to do with that. They're scientists, researchers. This is changing people's lives. We have an expression that we wrote about it in the book. You know, it says, just give us 4 days. Because most men and women, really, they do lose as much weight in 4 days as a month in any diet. They think that on the fifth morning, they think their scale's broken. I had one just call me a couple hours ago saying that. Said, I was shocked. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But look, you have no risk. The website is free. There's nothing to buy there. My books are not for sale there. Absolutely not. I'm not trying to sell you books. We want to make you aware, give you information, give you knowledge. So then you can decide if you like what's on the website, you can sign up for a free personal consultation. It's totally free. And then if you like what you see, scroll down. It says schedule a free consultation, personal consultation with one of our coaches. They do a Zoom call with you. They've done the protocol and been trained to help answer all your questions. That's totally for free. And if you do decide, that coach will be your coach. And the second thing, though, creating the world's most perfect meal, what was used in the medical trials, supplied from these fulfillment companies that had supplied the sources for the minerals, for the amino acids, for the electrolyte, for the adaptogens, and for the natural sourced vitamins. They offer you in the first 30 days 100% money back guarantee. Do you get that with intermittent fasting? Do you get that with paleo or keto or Mediterranean or any of these diets? They're at best a temporary diversion into something that is just going to break your heart. And you think it's your fault. It's the wrong approach. It's 100% the wrong approach. I mean, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. That, like for the new people, what we're talking about is why diets are failing us. We talked about traditional diets, how badly they're failing us in the long run, where these 38 years of research, these researchers who don't sell anything, have no products, created this protocol where people, men and women, lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, unless you think it's unsafe. They did not lose any water weight, and they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And that's not the reason to do this, because they also lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, and inflammation. Unheard of. Inflammation came down 25% in a month. People's hunger came down 41%. And they shrank the belly fat. That's the visceral fat that everybody complains about. They shrank that by 33% in 8 weeks. And by the way, in the studies, no one, men or women, were allowed to exercise. They eliminated exercise totally as an outlier. Not that the researchers against exercise, but they had to eliminate it to prove, would this change things? Because sadly, you know, a lot of people that are really overweight, they can barely walk, let alone go out and exercise. But they proved it. And you have the freedom now to go to, you can see the website, the New Health Conversation, right? It's right there for you, the New Health Conversation. But for Bodine, let me give it to you again. I'll put it up there right under your name, so you'll see right into your comment. Hold on just a second. Okay, there you can see it, the New Health Conversation. So, Melanie, what do we do? Okay, I'm going to review another time for everybody. I know we have new people coming on all the time. So, first of all, Melanie, in my book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, everything we have in here is medically proven, right? So the people who developed the protocol that I'm going to explain to you, how did men and women lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, and lost no water, gained lean muscle? Most women lost a whole dress size in 7 days with no exercise. Well, for 38 years, they've done 150 studies on every diet out there. I'll give you the short version. What they determined was every diet out there worked. People lost weight. But in every time when they did the measurement, the weight they were losing was up to 40% lean muscle. As a result, because they were not just nutritional researchers, but physiologists working on, how our organs work inside of us. They found every time, every diet, people lost up to 40% of the lean muscle mass, which slowed down the metabolism. Every time, people, when they came off the diet, gained back as much as they lost or more. So they knew that what they were doing, that something was wrong. And the something that was wrong was, and hopefully you would agree with this, Melanie, that every diet out there has nothing to do with counting calories. Or maybe you didn't know that, but it doesn't, because the human body doesn't even know what a calorie is. It's just a measurement. But what a diet is really is lowering the quantity of food. But the body works on a very simple principle. We have a floor, or let's call it a horizon. That's the minimum amount of nutrition the body needs to not trigger the starvation mode. Once the brain senses you've gone on a diet, you've lowered the amount of food, as the nutrition begins to deplete, like gas running out in your tank, the brain goes, wait a minute, we need nutrition. So what does it do? Well, it first stops you from burning fat and goes and looks for nutrition, finding it in your muscles, converts your muscles into carbohydrates for fuel. That's what slows your metabolism down. That's why you gain all the weight back. So the researchers, here's what they did. They figured out how to lower the quantity of food, but not lower the amount of nutrition. Now, they accomplished it by only letting people consume 40% of the food from the grocery store, because our food in this country is becoming more and more nutritionally deficient, okay? So they found basically they found researchers who for the last 25 years had found and researched food sources around the world which you can't buy at your local store. They came from Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, from Tibet and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, and they created the world's most perfect meal. So I'm going to tell you now, what did they do to accomplish results that no one's ever seen before? I mean, can you imagine that men and women lost as much weight in a month as a year on any diet with no exercise? Instead of losing water weight, they lost none. They gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Unheard of, unseen. Now, how did they do it? Well, only 40% of the food they had people consume was from the grocery store. You'd get a grocery list, okay? Number two, they found, well, what in their mind, they created what they call the world's most perfect food. Based on what? On nutrition. Based on massive amounts of nutrition that aren't available to us from regular food in this country. I'm going to go over quickly the 5 food sources that they used to complete this world's most perfect meal. Number one, the thing we're very short on in our food, even if it's organic, or what I call trace ionic minerals, we need 70, and in the best organic, you get 15 to 20 minerals today. That's a fact. It's known, okay? So they found a source that had all 70 minerals. The second thing that they did, they found an incredible source for amino acids, which you can get amino acids today from a plant or an animal. There are 9 that are essential, 11 that aren't. There's 20 total amino acids that we need amino acids to rebuild us, to remake our cells. They're called the building blocks of life. It's one of the reasons we're alive, because of amino acids. So you'd think, and you hear the influencers telling you, have 120 grams of protein a day. Well, in Europe, what they did, they determined, yes, when you ingested a protein plant or an animal, you got all 20 amino acids, but what percentage, 0 to 100, were being absorbed in the body? Shockingly, on vegetable proteins, it was 10% out of 100. When they looked at all meat, steak, chicken, liver, fish, it was 30%. They found a source where the absorption of the amino acids was 91%. So the meal is starting to take shape now. 70 minerals, 91% absorption of aminos, and then they found an amazing electrolyte that had no sugar, no artificial sweeteners, that is, you want electrolytes, especially if you're going on a protocol like this, okay? The fourth thing that they used they came from Mongolia and Manchuria in Russia. They're called adaptogens. And what adaptogens do, they lower stress and inflammation in the body. Well, in the medical study I just stated, they saw for the first time ever inflammation in 30 days. We all suffer from inflammation. Went down 25% in 30 days. Now, the fifth thing they did, they found a source that had tremendous amounts of naturally occurring vitamins. See, the problem is today, if you're taking a multivitamin, up to about 85 or 90% of all of them on the market are synthetic, made in a laboratory. That's not what you want. So you'd never create the world's most perfect meal by using artificial anything. So now they had the meal. Now what they had to do is figure out, okay, a completely different way, a theory of how people should consume food moving forward. They created something called protein pacing. 5 days a week, the people in studies did this. They had the world's most perfect meal in the morning, no food from the grocery store. Lunchtime, food from the grocery store. Dinner time, food from the grocery store. And their fourth meal, after dinner, they had another one of the world's most perfect food. But remember, those most perfect foods had relatively low calories, but massive amounts of nutrition, right? Then they did 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store, just the 4 most perfect meals, and that was it. And then look at the outcome. Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in a month as a year on any diet, lost no water, instead of losing lean muscle, which is the case on every single diet study out there. They gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. But the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. The main reason to do this is to deal with the TDOS syndrome, which we all have. Toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, overweight, and stress. Registered trademark U.S. Patent Office. In other words, the Patent Office recognizes it as a medical syndrome that everybody in the world has it. Right now, we're breathing in the fumes from the coal-fired power plants in China, the mercury and the cadmium from about 2 weeks ago. We're using over 10,000 chemicals in the production of food, and only about 300 have ever been tested for what they do to us. We have 80,000 chemicals in commercial use in North America. 2% have ever been tested. Did you see the thing on Starbucks coffee about 8 weeks ago where they said in 1 cup of Starbucks coffee, you're getting between 50 and 80,000 microplastics in every cup of coffee. So what we're doing, we're ingesting these chemicals and the body's taking them and stuffing them in our fat cells. No diet has ever shown anything like this. But these researchers who did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis proved this was assisting our own body in removing the herbicides, the pesticides, the Scotch-Guard, and the Teflon, evidenced by the fact that the visceral fat, where the body is storing these chemicals, it shrank with no exercise by 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. I know it sounds too good to be true. Now, the other thing for you, Melanie, you can go to, I'm going to put it right under your name again so you'll see it. This is the free website. Now, what are you going to see there, Melanie? Well, number one, nothing, my books, there's nothing there to buy. There's nothing there for you to have to worry about other than the real medical proof, okay? So the idea is you can go there, you can look at all the medical proof, including an interview with the number one nutritional researcher in the world, and you'll see it, 2 of them underneath you, the New Health Conversation. And if you like what you see, only if you like what you see, first of all, we won't contact you, Melanie, I promise you. But if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free personal consultation. I mean, it's free. It's with one of our coaches who's done the protocol and helped hundreds, if not thousands of people through the protocol. Secondly, you know, to create the world's most perfect food, I just went over with you the minerals, the amino acids, the electrolyte, the adaptogens, and the natural vitamins. Those suppliers, those fulfillment companies who supplied to the studies, they offer you 100% money back guarantee for the first 30 days on the protocol. Now, the 40% of the food you buy in from the grocery store, you'd have to negotiate with them, but obviously they're probably not going to give you 100% money back guarantee. But you have to understand that why would those, those suppliers be that dumb? They weren't dumb at all because they have the medical proof. Now, I'm not saying nothing is 100%. That would be the most ridiculous statement I could ever make. What matters is the medical proof that this really does work. It's so rare when anybody asks for a refund. They get it without, I don't have anything to do with it. They get it, no question. They'll even pay return shipping. That's how confident they are it's going to work. Because I would ask any of you, with all due respect, then based on what I've already just explained to you, please, anybody, put in the chat. What would be yours? First of all, what are you doing about the TDOS syndrome? Did you even know about it today? Did you know about the chemicals we're storing in our body that are called obesogens? Listen to this, the Endocrine Society. Excuse me, the Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and clinical practice of endocrinology, reports the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrialized chemicals. They give these chemicals a name. They call them obesogens. Listen to what they're saying. Simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our body from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastic pollutants in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on produce. They act in a variety of ways mimicking human hormones, such as estrogen. So many women complain about hormones, okay? Not just through, menopause, but just in general, I guess. And then they say blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone and essentially, listen to this, reprogram us to gain weight. What are you doing about obesogens? Because no diet has ever proven at all to remove a gram of a pesticide, herbicide from our body, these obesogens. They have the medical proof. They did it. They did it. They accomplished something that no one had ever done before, including themselves. They'd spent 38 years, done 150 studies on every diet out there, And obviously what they were concentrating on was primarily on weight loss, but not just weight loss. Could people keep it off? The answer was no. Every diet, people lost weight. Every diet, people lost up to 40% of the lean muscle. Every time that happens, automatically in your body, when you begin to lose lean muscle, your body slows down your metabolism. You can't burn as many calories. That's why you plateau. That's why you come off the diet and you gain everything back. Today, we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. But this should really concern all of us. Study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. This is Johns Hopkins Medical School in Baltimore saying, if the current trend continues, 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030 in less than 6 years. What are we doing? Are we believing these influencers that are giving you opinions with no proof? Where's the proof? Well, if 86% of Americans, that means only 14% of Americans are not going to be overweight or obese. And we know, for example, that being overweight, how many of you, maybe you're on high blood pressure or whatever, you go to your doctor and say, you know, if you could lose some weight, you probably need less medication. I'm not against medication, be clear. But in the studies, in 30 days, there were diabetics and people on high blood pressure medication monitored by their doctors, not the researchers. I think in almost every case, people were able to reduce the amount of medication they needed in 30 days by like 50%. Their doctors reduced it, not us. We had nothing to do with that. So imagine whatever medication you're taking now, obviously, if you could take less of it, that would be a good thing. Number one, from an economic standpoint of view, just in terms of minimizing the potential side effects. Thank goodness we have these drugs. I mean, if we've got 50% of America obese right now, and we know that obesity, according to Harvard Medical School, leads to about 60 known diseases, this is a lot more than how you feel in your, this is a catastrophe. I mean, an apocalypse by 2030? Do you know worldwide now we have 1 billion people clinically obese? This is the Lancet, one of the biggest medical journals, just published in March of 2024, this study. They're saying we now estimate 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition worldwide. What? Yes. Did you think being obese? I mean, they did a study on children about 5 years ago, obese children. 25% of the kids were suffering from rickets and scurvy, which are diseases of malnutrition. It has nothing to do with the calorie. It has everything to do with what's inside the calorie. Not really. It has everything to do with what's inside our food, because a calorie is just a measurement. A calorie is not like a physical, you're not eating calories. It's a measurement, and that's it. So, good. I hope you will go to the website for your own benefit to see the medical proof, okay? So do any of, excuse me, do any of the others of you have any questions or comments? Because my voice is a little hoarse, I need to take a break. I'm going to do another live probably in less than 2 hours. I try to do 2 to 3 of these podcasts a day because there's so many people that are desperate that really are looking for a solution. Hopefully this has been enlightening, motivational, educational. But again, let me emphasize, if you go to the website, we're not contacting you. We don't do that. There's no books to buy there. There's no, only thing there is the medical proof. And if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free. I don't know how many other ways to say this. People have actually put in the comments, how much is the free consultation? That tells me how skeptical people are. Because probably if you're on this podcast, you're either thinking about a diet, you've been on a diet, or you was on tons of diets, everything you've ever tried. Yes, you lost weight initially. You gained it all back. That's the only way we can have 80% of America overweight and 50% obese, is if any of these diets work, those numbers would be going down, they wouldn't be going up. And I think you'll all agree we have more diets than ever. You know, one of the big trends now is this intermittent fasting, where you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. It's, I mean, again, in the New England Journal of Medicine 12-month study, people lost in a year doing that 12 pounds in a year, a pound a month. Would you do intermittent fasting if you knew medically that that was the outcome? And that up to 40% of what you lost of the 12 pounds was lean muscle mass. That means about 4.8 pounds was lean muscle mass. And the minute you stop it, you're going to gain all your weight back. It's not sustainable, number one. Okay, that's number one. And any diet you can put in the chat, I agree, you're going to lose weight. But it's so unhealthy. And look at the national media now. What are they talking about? well, not this medical syndrome, which I did TDOS, toxicity, deficiency, overweight, and stress, but they're talking about the fact that our food is nutritionally bankrupt. They're talking about the fact we are ingesting these chemicals. We all saw what happened with, Roundup, but that's the tip of the iceberg. Here's another, listen to this. This is another expert. Frederick von Saul, professor of biological sciences, University of Missouri, Columbia. Obesogens are acting by hijacking and controlling our weight. We already covered that, but listen to what he goes on. This presence of obesogens is the first reason, listen to this, is the first reason that traditional low carbohydrate, low calorie diets are completely outdated. Harvard Medical School, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They're saying it's wrong to be counting calories, of course, because now they recognize after all this time that the end result of every diet lowering calories was a loss of lean muscle mass, slowing down people's metabolism, and they gained all their weight back. Am I making sense? Seriously, ask yourself, if 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% are pre-diabetic, do we need more diets doing the same thing with a different name? Can anybody put a diet in the chat that's not some form of restricting calories? What would it be? I don't know of one. And I'm an author and researcher. I've been doing this. I've written 4 best-selling books, all with medical doctors. I'm not trying to impress you or brag. It's a fact. I did 20 shows on PBS. I've done 1,500 live lectures all over the world, including in China. And for 20 of those 21 years, it didn't mean a thing in the medical world. Why? Because there was no medical proof. There were no peer-reviewed human trial studies. You have the benefit to go and see them for free. Yeah, well, okay, I'm going to make some microwave popcorn. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, but all you're doing is making yourself unhealthy. I mean, that's what you're doing. So, I mean, I know you think it's funny. It's not funny. You can have microwave popcorn. I mean, everything in moderation. But you have to understand that your outcome is really influenced by your nutrition. That's all I can tell you, right? What whole food plant? No. No. In the studies, again, they've done vegans, they did 150 studies in 38 years, and plants in particular contribute to an even greater loss of lean muscle mass. Let me explain it to you. We get amino acids. There are 20. 9 are essential. You got to get them from your diet. 11 are non-essential. So there are plant-based proteins, like let's say a pea protein, okay? And then you have animal proteins, right? Now, there's ethical, I don't want to get into an argument about plant. I'm just giving you science. That's all I rely on. I don't give you opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people that you can read books and get opinions with no medical proof. In Europe, they developed a test where when you ingest a plant-based protein, in this case, they could tell you get all 20 amino acids. So let's applaud. That sounds great. But by doing blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that a plant-based protein, like a pea protein, the absorption of the 20 amino acids, which is the only thing that matters to us. It's not that we're getting all 20. It's what percentage from 0 to 100 being complete, all 100% of the quantity of the amino acids. Not the 20, but what the amino acids do for us. Well, a plant-based protein, when they measured it, was only 10% out of 100. 90% of the plant-based proteins are turned into toxic waste that the kidneys have to get rid of. They have a name. They're called nitrogen catabolites, urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose. Now, all animal proteins were 30% absorption, so 70% was toxic waste. That's why, if God forbid you ever had a friend on kidney dialysis, they don't want them to have any protein at all because of the waste from the protein that's not absorbed. So again, I'm just giving you the science. And if you think your body is going to be better off with 10% of the aminos versus in these medical studies, they found a source where the absorption of the aminos was 91%. That would be a 900% increase, a 9-fold increase over a plant-based protein. That's why people in the studies instead of losing lean muscle mass, which was the case on every plant. It didn't matter if it's plant-based, keto, paleo, Mediterranean, they lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. With plants, it was even more. Because again, the amount of amino acids they were getting from a plant-based protein was so low from an absorption. And I don't want to disparage it. There's lots of vegans, there's ethical reasons, go for it if you want. I'm just giving you the physiological reality, not on Peter Greenlaw's opinion, but on these new studies that were done in Europe. So athletes, everybody's changing the ones that know about it, okay? I still see these influences coming on. Have 120 grams, 150 grams of protein a day. But people would think you're getting 120 or 150 grams of protein. No, you're not. If it's meat, you're getting 30% of that the body converts the amino acid into a human protein. Protein itself is a toxin to our body. It's like the shell of a walnut, whether it's from a plant-based protein or from an animal-based protein. So let's establish a level playing field. So that's the reality, okay? You can do whatever you want to do. I'm just giving you the scientific proof. And again, obviously, if 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese and 50% are pre-diabetic, there's a hell of a lot of vegans in that category. And then John Hopkins is saying, study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. If the current trend continues, 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030. If any of these things work, how could that be happening? It's a catastrophe. You think COVID was big? Do you know right now we have 1 billion people worldwide clinically obese, making obesity the number one cause, the leading form of malnutrition in the world? They did a study on obese children about 5 years ago, and 25% of the kids that were obese that they studied were suffering from rickets and scurvy, which are diseases of malnutrition. See, everything we're doing is upside down. We're concentrating on these quantity equivalencies and ignoring the only thing the body cares about is nutrition. It's kind of like you can power your car with 1 gallon of gas and go 20 miles. But what if, I'm not saying it exists, but what if there was a gallon of gas that you could put in your tank where you'd go 100 miles on 1 gallon of gas? That's what the researchers did. So whether it's a car or whether your body, which is an engine, and we know the longevity studies are clear. The less amount of food you consume over your lifetime, the greater chance you're going to live a much longer life. But the problem with that, if you try and do it with regular food, you're in a deficit. You're going to lose lean muscle. Look, what's one of the things that elderly people are the most afraid of? Falling down, breaking their hip, because it's going to be fatal. What's causing it? The loss of lean muscle mass. Because again, they didn't get one of the 20 amino acids, I should have mentioned, it's called leucine, is how you make muscle in your body, not from resistance training or lifting weights. If you don't have leucine, I don't care what you do, you're not going to build any muscle. So we know that all of us starting at age 25 suffer from a disease called sarcopenia. You can look it up. You lose about 1% of your lean muscle mass every year as you move forward in your life because you don't have this high absorption of amino acids. So go and look at someone in a nursing home in their 80s. The skin's hanging off their bones. They don't have any fat. They have no muscle. And we now know that loss of muscle mass and an increase in the visceral, that's the belly fat, is a leading contributing factor to dementia and to Alzheimer's disease. The big study done in the Obesity Journal published about 4 or 5 months ago. So there are consequences to microwaving and to processed foods. And, you know, just because you're putting something in your mouth, it doesn't mean you're... Do you know that a processed food, for example, causes an immune system reaction in your body? Because it's not something the immune system doesn't recognize it. We've engineered these things, you know. I mean, the main thing about food is shelf life. I mean, we are where we are. All I'm saying is, thank goodness, there's a medical proven solution for those people that are curious enough to take a little time to go to the website, see all the medical proof, and then sign up for a free consultation. What do you have to lose? You're going to get coached for free, and the foods you're buying, other than from the grocery store, it comes with a 100% money back guarantee. What diet offers you that? And what's the outcome of all the diets? We've gone over it today. I mean, even Harvard Medical, stop counting calories. Harvard Medical School, the idea of calories in, calories out is antiquated, not just antiquated, it's wrong. They're saying we need to concentrate on what's in the food, not how much food we're consuming. Doesn't it just make sense to you? If you could eat less food, it would be more, your body, you'd be more efficient. Now, if you're going on a diet, you're eating less food and you're getting less nutrition. The researchers solved that. They gave, the people had less food, but they didn't have less nutrition. So the simplest way I can explain it to you is that. I mean, when men and women with no exercise allowed, women in a week lost a whole dress size on average. Men lost 2, 4, up to 6 inches off their waist in 7 days with no exercise. What are you doing to accomplish that? Oh, Hillary, that's a great question. Pure aminos. I actually like those and I recommend them. But here's what they're missing. They don't have the 70 trace minerals. They don't have a 90, they don't have the other botanicals. So in the food source, which they created the world's most perfect, like if you wanted to do pure aminos, I'd be cool with that. But you don't need them. Because again, as part of the world's most perfect food, you need a lot more than just those amino acids. You need them in conjunction with the 70 minerals. You need adaptogens. You see what I'm saying? Again, if you're talking about the world's most perfect food, you need all of these things. Amino acids are certainly a good part of that. I really like that particular product, but it's not this. Okay? So the research, they knew about pure aminos. They could have given their people pure aminos. But there's no other nutritional value. There's no other botanicals. There's no other of the other elements that are in there. So that's as honest as I can be with you, right? So if you did this, if you were taking pure aminos, you wouldn't need them. I mean, a lot of people are shocked that, you know, maybe they're spending whatever amount of money on supplements. They don't need any supplements if they're doing this because it's supplying everything and more than any and again, the multivitamins and the vitamins you're taking, for the most part, are synthetic, made in a laboratory. That's not what you want. Especially there are a lot of people that have the MTHFR gene, which they react in a really bad way to synthetic vitamins. It's all, I mean, it's just proof, right? Okay. Let me put it up here again for you also, Hillary. This is the free website with the medical proof of everything that I'm talking about for you today. You can see it there, the New Health Conversation. It's free to go there, Hillary. Even though I've written 4 best-selling books, none of my books are there. There's nothing there to buy. It's just the medical proof, including an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world for the last 38 years. And you watch that interview, 100% of the people that watch that interview, they're going, oh my God, I'll never do a traditional diet again. Does anybody, and please tell me, I'm not trying to be silly, but put in the chat any diet that you think that works long-term. I'm here to listen. Doesn't exist. Now, to give you, remember, what we do at the New Health Conversation, we don't give you opinions. If you want opinions, there's a plethora of people on social media that will give you their opinion. I haven't seen one offering you, #1, a free medical, well, they have no medical proof, #1. They're giving you an opinion that, well, the only way to lose weight, we're going to show you how to cut 300 calories a day. Really? Wait a minute. I kind of trust Harvard Medical School when they go, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. I don't fault them. They're telling you what they think they know. They're telling you what they've been told. But I say this, what if everything we're being told about diet, exercise, nutrition is 100% wrong? Because it is. You can't have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, and 50% pre-diabetic if diets worked. Go to Barnes & Noble. It'll make your head spin. Whether it's vegans, whether it's intermittent fasting, whether it's paleo, keto, Mediterranean, Atkins, lose weight for your blood type, the Cornish diet, the Zone diet, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers Nutrisystem. Well, it just so happens in a huge study done in the Journal of the American Medical Association, they did a 12-month study. Now this time, the Journal of American Medical Association, one of the big medical journals, they looked at 41 different studies, 7,286 people over 12 months. And they named all the diet. Well, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Paleo, Keto, Mediterranean, Intermittent Fasting, Cornish diet, lose weight for your blood type, Atkins diet, Zone diet, Cornish diet, Mediterranean, all the diets. What did they find? In 12 months, when they compared the most amount of weight loss to the least amount of weight loss, remember, they had all these diets, they had all this research. The difference in weight loss from the best or most amount of weight to the least amount of weight loss in a year was 10 ounces. You heard me, 10 ounces, not 10 pounds. And in the 12 months, across the board, on average, people lost about 16 pounds in a year, and up to 40% of what they lost, again, was lean muscle mass. There's never been a diet out there where people, that's why they told you, it's unhealthy to lose more than a pound or two a week on a diet. I totally agree. Because what the doctors were saying, that what you're losing is lean muscle mass. Well, now we know it, that's the main, is 40% of what you're losing on any diet is lean muscle mass. And what occurs when that happens, when you lose lean muscle mass, your body has to slow down your metabolism. So you plateau, and then you quit the diet, and you come off the diet, and you gain it all back, and then you look for a new diet. A new diet really telling you to do the same thing with a different name, whether it's paleo or keto or any of these diets. And I'm not, look, a lot of people do in carnivore. I'm not against it, but it's still completely nutritionally deficient. Like those meats, you're getting 30% of the amino acids, and you're eating tremendous quantities to try and get more because it's so little conversion. So again, and it's not sustainable. And I know, and I'm not against it. I have a lot of people that actually are doing it, but they're doing it in conjunction with it. It's just like the shots. We're not against the shots. Hear me clearly. We're not against the shots because they really are helping some diabetics and some people that are obese. But let's go again to the medical proof. Let me read to you from the New England Journal of Medicine, not my opinion, okay? I'm not making a claim, I'm just reading from the study. This was a 68-week study done in the New England Journal of Medicine on semaglutide. Semaglutide is one of the GLP-1s like Ozempic, et cetera. Okay, after 68 weeks, the average weight loss was 32 pounds in 68 weeks. But right in the study, 40% of what the people lost was lean muscle mass. That's New England Journal of Medicine. So you can, yeah, Azita. Well, okay, so I'm going to give you some great, Azita, I'm going to give you some great information. So I assume that if you're you're a type 1. So you must be on insulin, right? I don't think you're on glucophage or metformin, but just bear with me. It wouldn't matter. As you probably know, Azita, what happens when they give you that medication, yes, it lowers your blood sugar. But the other thing you need to know, and that's one reason you're having such a terrible time losing weight, whether it's keto, paleo, whatever, that as you lower your blood sugar, and what happens is insulin goes up. And when insulin goes up in your body, Azita, it causes your body to store fat. And it raises cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone, which also contributes to weight gain, okay? So what they did in the medical studies, Azita, they had diabetics, type 1s and type 2s, on medication, insulin, glucophage, metformin, Ozempic, whatever the other diabetic drugs were. And what was shocking, the diabetics were monitored by their own medical doctors, not by the researchers, because that was part of the deal. If you signed up to do the study and you had a medical condition, you had to have your doctor monitor you, because you have to understand what they did, Azita, this had never been done before. This was a theory. They didn't know if it was going to work. They didn't know what was going to happen. So what was amazing, Azita, imagine in the first 30 days, especially the diabetics, type 1s and type 2s, their blood, not only did their blood sugar come down like 10 points in a month, but for the first time ever, insulin, instead of it going up, came down 41% in 30 days. Life-changing. So obviously you're going to, type 1, you're going to be on insulin forever, but I think you would agree if you can consume, if you take less insulin, that's going to be good for you, right? But keep in mind that the diabetics thrive on this, thrive. And how much would excite you, Azita, if you can lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of keto that you're on, and lose no muscle mass, and lower your insulin, doesn't that sound exciting? Now, and again, Azita, it comes, the 40% of the food, and you'll get a grocery list that the researchers developed. You shop at the grocery store, the other 60% of these foods from around the world, and those foods, the manufacturer or the suppliers offer you 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days, and you get a coach for free. And as a diabetic, you will get a coach who's worked with hundreds of diabetics. We match up coaches with, because people doing this have all these incredible challenges. So why wouldn't we have you sign? And the coaching's free, by the way, is free. We don't charge for coaching. Because you deserve to have an opportunity to see if this can work. None of those diets work. And especially with diabetes, it's even more of a challenge. But Azita, would it be wonderful if you could cut back on the amount of medication you needed at the same time, losing weight basically in a week that would take you 8 weeks on diets? I think you might be a little curious or a little excited about that, right? Ah, I get it, Azita. Okay. Okay, so Azita, here, let me give you the website. Give me just a second. Okay, so Azita, right there, the New Health Conversation. You go there. I want you to look at them. I don't want you to believe me, okay? I want to invite you to go there, look at the medical proof, and then I think you'll be shocked because the results of the diabetics are right there, right on the site, right? But there's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher and physiologist in the world who conducted the studies along with his teams for 38 years when they created this new concept, this new protocol. And if you scroll to the bottom, it says sign up for a free personal consultation, but be sure to put in the comments that you're a diabetic. So we'll know to assign you to a coach who has tremendous experience with type 1 and type 2 diabetics. Very important. So again, there's a little comment section. You'll see you put in your contact information. And if you go to our website, we're not going to contact you. Be clear. We don't do that. There's nothing to buy there, and my books aren't there. It's all about the medical proof. We want you to have an opportunity to open your eyes, open your horizon, and become aware of really what's possible for you to potentially change the rest of your life. Because I think, Azita, wouldn't you agree? If you could lower the amount of insulin you need on a daily basis, wouldn't that be a huge win for you? I mean, I know based on all the diabetics that we work with. Oh, also, Azita, I need to tell you, I'll tell you in a minute, Princess Pal. Let me finish with Azita first. For all of you, you need to know the chemist who invented this more than 25 years ago was a diabetic, okay? And although it's for everybody. It's not just for diabetics, so that's just interesting. Okay, so Princess Pal, how do we reduce cortisol, okay? So in the studies, well, let me back up. So Princess, did you hear what they did by creating the world's most perfect meals? Did you hear that part of it? Otherwise, I'll repeat it to you because it won't make any sense about how you can reduce cortisol, which is a byproduct, obviously, of stress, right? Well, okay, so let me explain it to you. So we started out talking, this is my best-selling book. I'm the author, I'm the researcher, called Why Diets Are Failing Us. And essentially, to make the story real short, the researchers who developed this protocol that I'm going to explain to you that lowers cortisol, lowers stress, but more importantly, lowered inflammation, they'd done 150 studies on diets for 38 years. They developed this. And the philosophy was that in all the diets they ever had people go on, they lost weight. But in every case, people lost lean muscle mass, at about 40% of their weight loss. Therefore, they slowed their metabolism down and increased, and then gained all the weight back, and obviously also cause stress in the body because the body only works on nutrition. It doesn't work on calories, okay? So what they did, in the protocol, they created a grocery list. 40% of the food you consume is from the grocery store. You actually get a list. The other 60% are from 5 foods that come from around the world. And they included, one of the things we are very short in our diet is what are called trace ionic minerals. We need about 70 of them, and we're getting 20 in the best organic food we can buy. And when I'm talking about trace ionic minerals, I'm talking about gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and selenium and molybdenum, et cetera. So the researchers found a source with all 70 minerals. They also found a source with the highest level of amino acid absorption on the planet. They found an electrolyte, but here's your cortisol and your stress. They also used in the studies what are called adaptogens. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. Adaptogens come from Manchuria and Mongolia. And the two things they do in the human body that are unbelievably amazing, number one, they massively lower stress, at the same time massively lower inflammation. So obviously by you lowering your stress, by definition, you're going to lower cortisol. And then the fifth thing they found were these food sources with tremendous amounts of natural occurring vitamins, not synthetic, nothing in a lab. All this is natural. But they have the proof. So never before in any study ever have they ever shown any diet, any approach that would lower inflammation. And obviously, inflammation, as you probably know, causes stress in the body. And how does the body manage stress? By doing what? By increasing cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that controls stress. So in this book, my second book of 4 that I've written, all bestsellers, it's called Toxicity, Deficiency, Overweight, and Stress. But I'll share something with you. The original title was TDOSI. The I was for inflammation. Well, as I began to publish this, or was going to publish it like 10 years ago, the FDA came out and made inflammation a disease. So my lawyers said I couldn't use to dose E. So I had to rewrite the total book. But the whole premise behind this was that the toxins we are drinking and breathing and eating are not being eliminated by our body because our food is so nutritionally deficient. That's what the researchers knew, and that's what they created. And I know it sounds crazy, and I don't know anything about you if weight loss is part of your goal, but men and women lost as much weight in 7 days on this protocol as 8 weeks of any diet ever. They lost no water, and instead of losing lean muscle mass, which also increases stress in our body and shoots cortisol up, they were able to increase their lean muscle mass 6 to 9% with no exercise. I know it sounds too good to be true. And for you or for Azita, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight, despite the fact that women and men, but women and no one was allowed to exercise, men or women, they dropped the whole dress size in 7 days across the board. They lost as much weight in a month as a year of any diet, and without any loss of water loss. And instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And the visceral, that's the belly fat, the fat around our organs, was reduced by 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. So again, and I would never promise you, but here's the other cool thing for you as well, and that's great, Azita. So Princess Pal. So the point is that the 5 foods that make up the world's most perfect food, and this is for all of you, those fulfillment companies who found those foods over the course of 25 years and supplied them to the medical studies. See, the researchers that created this protocol, they don't sell anything. They don't make anything. They're scientists. So they use these 5 food groups from different fulfillment companies, and the fulfillment companies offer you 100% money back guarantee in the first, listen, not a gimmick, no questions asked, 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. So you get a coach for free, and you get 100% money back guarantee on 60% of what you're going to consume. The 40% from the grocery store, they're probably not going to give you, but you have to eat. Here's the point, you have to eat anyway. But the difference is 40%, you're having food that is definitely nutritionally challenged, deficient, versus the world's most perfect meal with massive doses of nutrition. Like most people, once they go, they don't need any supplements at all because everything's in here. That's what the researchers did. So I hope this is helpful to everyone. I hope you're tuned in, Yes, Princess Pal, please do. Look, for all of you, Azita, Princess Pal, any of the people that have been commenting, I know you're skeptical. I know it's too good to be true. But can you just put your skepticism a little bit to the side? So, okay. The website is completely free. The website is totally transparent. If you go to the website, we're not contacting you. So it's not like you went to the website as some trick that we're going to bait and switch you. Like, oh, you want to see the medical proof? Oh, well then, sign up for, $60 for our program or whatever the heck it is. I see people doing this. And if they're getting away with it, great. That's not what we do. We're scientists. We're researchers. I've spent 21 years of my life working with some of the top medical doctors, oncologists, molecular biologists, geneticists, and nutraceutical chemists and researchers and physiologists in the whole world. Everything I'm sharing with you is from them. I am the researcher of the researchers. Let's be clear. I'm not the expert, but I became an expert on the experts. And we set up the website for you to go for free. People coming on, I want to buy your book. No, I don't want you to buy my book. I really don't. That's why we supplied that medical website, because we didn't want you to think, oh, well, if I go to the website, he's going to sell me his book. I'm not selling you any books. Forget it. I mean, there are people that they want to buy my book. That's okay. But it's not going to be from my website. You can Google me and you'll find out where you can buy my books if you want. That's not the point. The point is that I hope all of us understand when we're talking about today, as we sit here, 80% of America overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic. This book, which I wrote in 2010, 14, almost 15 years ago now, was I right? Why diets are failing us? Or do you think that 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, that it's working? But let's look at the more shocking news. This study done by the Johns Hopkins Medical School in Baltimore, they're saying if the current trend continues, 86% of America will be overweight or obese by 2030 in less than 6 years. It's almost 2025, so 5 years. Well, do you really, I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm not trying to be argumentative. But can you justify that diets are working when we got 86% of America overweight, 50% are obese? And these research, what are these influencers telling you? The only way to lose weight is to count calories. Really? Do they have any at all medical proof? Is there one shred of medical evidence? Are they showing you a free medical proof website with these 7 peer-reviewed human medical trials? There's nothing higher in medical research. And the researchers, they don't work for a company. They don't sell anything. They're researchers. Their goal was with this breakthrough. They had been looking at obesity for 38 years. They'd done 150 studies. And the sad outcome, every time, every person ended up gaining at least as much weight as they lost or more. I read to you from this other report. Here's what's so crazy. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. It's evidenced by what's going on. They go on to say what's even worse. Two-thirds of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. Harvard Medical School. Stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out to lose weight is not just antiquated, it's just wrong. They said we need to put the emphasis on what's in the food, not how much food they're eating. So forget calories. Calories is nonsense. It's a measurement. Why you're counting calories? The body doesn't count calories. The body doesn't care about calories. What it cares about is nutrition. You got to understand what these researchers did for us. You know, they took a chance on their reputation, because when you do a medical study and you submit it to a medical journal, like let's say the Obesity Journal, right? They analyze it to decide if they're going to publish it. The Obesity Journal does not analyze the study. They send it out to other world-class experts, medical doctors and researchers who have one job. They're paid to do this, to discredit what you're claiming. That's why you won't see any of these diets on their own initiating peer-reviewed human trials. It doesn't exist. The studies that are being done on diets are done by the New England Journal of Medicine, Journal of American Medical, Nutrients, I mean, all these, not by like the people that created paleo, not by, for example, the Mediterranean diet, which has been the #1 diet 7 years in a row, U.S. News and World Report. The study that was done, 8 months, the weight loss in 8 months was 10.2 pounds in 8 months, with 40% of the weight loss lean muscle. Would you go on a diet like intermittent fasting if the New England Journal of Medicine, after 12 months, people lost 12 pounds in a year on intermittent fasting? Would you put yourself through that torture for a year to have that outcome? Maybe you think it's okay. But the people in these studies, they lost 16 pounds in a month, gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle, losing no water weight. But what were the other benefits? Blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides all came down dramatically in just 30 days. And here was the big one, inflammation, which is the underlying cause of every disease out there, let alone raising stress levels in the body. That came down 25% in 30 days. The researchers were stunned because for 38 years, they'd always done blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis on all these diets. They never saw results, nothing even resembling this. And yet the main reason to do it is none of what I've just talked about. The main reason to do it is to attack the TDOS syndrome, toxicity driven by deficiency, overweight, and stress, because we're storing all these chemicals inside our body, inside our fat cells. In the studies where they did the analysis, they showed that this was assisting the body, because it's the body that does the detox. It was removing herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and plastics from the body. That's why you'd want to do it. Oh, and by the way, yeah, you're going to fit in your skinny jeans, but also it's sustainable. In the studies that are published, some of them were started 3 years ago. They've monitored the people in the studies. They've been able to keep their weight off now for 3 years. The program's called R2M. That's what the researchers call it. You know what this stands for? Race to maintenance. Because here's the thing that would be ridiculous on your part. Why would you go on this, create this incredible result, and then go back to what you were doing before and gain all your weight back or deterioration? Maintenance is really simple. We teach you that. But first, to get you to your goal, I mean, we've got a young man right now that's 34, I think. He's about 5'10", weighs 650 pounds. He's got some work to do, but it's really working for him. It's just miraculous. But, you know, we have a lot of people that want to lose 10 pounds. We have people who want to gain weight, athletes, because everybody needs to detox or facilitate your own body in detox. You can't run away from it. I read to you before about the Endocrine Society saying that these chemicals that have a name called obesogens, they said, simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. No diet deals with obesogens. This is not a diet. Main reason to do it is not to lose weight. That's like a given. I feel like I have to repeat that so many times because people think it's a diet. No, it's not a diet. It has nothing to do with dieting. It has nothing to do with counting calories, okay? No, Kristen, no. That's not even, what is the website, please? Okay, let me put the website up there for you first, Kristen. The way you build lean muscle in your body, Kristen, is with one of 20 amino acids. I'm assuming you're familiar with amino acids. If you're not, I'll explain it to you, okay? Okay, if you're pregnant, you can do parts of it. You can't do the full detox in particular, but yes, absolutely, both pregnant women and nursing moms. But that's why we do a personal consultation with you. It's not like one size fits all, okay? But let me get back to about, so eat what you want and you will gain lean muscle. Absolutely not, completely wrong. The way we build muscle in our body is with one of 20 amino acids called leucine. There are 20 amino acids, 9 of which are essential. You have to get them from your diet, including leucine, okay? Bodybuilders, they'll consume like 1 or 2 grams of protein for every pound they weigh, trying to get more leucine. So here's the good news. Whatever food you're choosing, plant or animal protein, you get all 20 amino acids, including leucine. But here's why they don't work. Here's what you're saying won't work. In Europe, they developed a test through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. And what they were able to do when you ingest protein from a plant or an animal, what the body does, so protein itself is like a walnut shell. It's useless to us, a protein from a plant or an animal. I know it's shocking to people. All the body cares about is what's inside the shell. So the body breaks open the shell and extracts the 20 amino acids, and you think you're good to go. In Europe, through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they were able to determine when you ingested a protein from a plant or an animal, what percentage of those 20 amino acids were actually being used by our body, in this case, like to make lean muscle. Okay, so this will shock you. Plant-based protein, if you're doing vegan stuff, you're getting 10% absorption. Whether you're doing steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., you're getting 30%. The reason people built lean muscle in the studies, they found a source where the absorption of the amino acids from a protein was 91%. In essence, you can see a 300%, 3-time increase in the amount of amino acids. And they have the medical proof. Men and women with no exercise gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. The researchers for 38 years had put people on what you're talking about, regular food, proteins, no one ever gained lean muscle mass in 38 years. Every person lost up to 40% of their lean muscle. Why? Because they didn't have enough of the amino acids. So hopefully that makes some sense to you. And again, you can go, so Kristen, you can go to the website. It's 1,000,000% free. I didn't post it. I'm sorry. Let me post it right now. I get too wound up here. I apologize in advance. Don't confuse my enthusiasm for anything other than that. We're at a precipice. Does anyone think that, explain to me how diets work, if they can work. We have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. And then Johns Hopkins Medical School, in this study, says study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030, where they're saying if the current trend continues, 86% of America will be overweight or obese by 2030 in basically 5.5 years. 86%, that means 14% of you on here will not be overweight or obese. Or you will be part of the 86%. And so what do we keep doing? We keep doing the diets. We keep counting calories. We just changed the names. Now this intermittent fasting where you don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8. Really? Where are you getting 70 minerals? You're not. They're just flawed. They do not work. I mean, why diets are failing us? I mean, it's almost like a joke. I don't even have to explain it anymore. Go out in public, sadly. Go to Walmart, go to Kmart, go to Costco. Look at what's going on. Look at a picture of the beach from 1970 to today. It's sad. My own mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I never knew her thin. I never knew her healthy, and I loved her. And big reason I became a researcher is because this story I'm going to share with you right now. 23 years ago, she called me up and said, Peter, I have one really big wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I'd give anything if I could just spend 24 hours thin. I said, Mom, that's great. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. I loved my mom. She was friggin' awesome. It didn't matter. It mattered to her. I'd see her lose 20 pounds, gain 25 back. I didn't love her any less when she was 25 or 50 pounds or 100 pounds heavier, because every diet, every time she lost weight and gained back more than she lost. And we now know that on every diet, you're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle mass. Our heart's a muscle. I can't prove it, of course. I believe my mom dieted herself to death, and I believe many of you on this podcast today are suffering in quiet desperation. I'm believing you're skeptical because you've tried everything and nothing has ever worked. But when have you ever had a position where you can get a free coach and the foods that make up the real heart of this, 60% of what you consume, is 100% money back guarantee? Where is your risk? Your risk is you're letting your skepticism prevent you potentially from changing the rest of your life, because it's called R2M, race to maintenance is the protocol. So it's getting at your goal and then teaching you how to stay there. I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. That's pretty good, isn't it? But I'm not the only one. I mean, it's across the board. The biggest thing that I fight is ignorance and apathy. Not that you're not smart, but it's hard for you to believe that something like this exists. But yet, do we accept like GPS? I don't know how that works. What do you mean there's a car on the side of the road? I mean, what do they got to, I mean, it's crazy. So the things we have in our lives today, we just accept them. So is it really that surprising that with 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, and 50% pre-diabetic, that some researchers weren't going to figure out we need a solution? Now this is the only one that has that has 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies. So you can be as skeptical as you want. And look, I'm going to support you in your skepticism. But honestly, what are you risking by going to the website, which is free, there's nothing to buy there, to see the medical proof? And then and only then, you can contact us. We're not going to contact you. We don't need to do that. We have so many people that want to do this. It's crazy. Because 80% of America, but it's worse. I didn't even share this with you. So the CDC, Center for Disease Control, about 8-9 months ago came out and said 92% of us are metabolic unhealthy. See if this fits you. If you're overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, or high triglycerides. If you have 3 of those factors, any 3, you're considered metabolic unhealthy by the CDC. In the studies, all 5 came down dramatically in the first 30 days. Do you know that of the $4.5 trillion healthcare, we're spending on healthcare in this country right now, 4.5 trillion, 1.2 trillion is metabolic. It's called metabolic dysfunction or metabolic syndrome, meaning you have 3 of those 5 factors. And here's the thing, thank gosh we have the drugs we have. But if you're on high blood pressure medication, if you're on cholesterol medication, if you're on blood sugar medication, you still have those conditions. It's mitigating. And the goal would be, as it was in these studies, the people that were on high blood pressure medication and blood sugar medication with their doctors monitoring them, not the researchers. I think in almost every case, people were able to reduce their medications that they took by as much as 50% in 30 days. Not eliminating. This is not a substitute for, we're not treating, diagnosing, curing any diseases. Let's get that out of the way. That's not what we're doing. We're working in conjunction with. For example, there are a lot of people that are doing the shot, the GLP-1s, like Ozempic, semaglutide, etc. Do you know that every person on there, when they come off those shots, are gaining all their weight back? And when the New England Journal of Medicine did a 68-week study, the weight loss, maybe you think it's good, I'm not going to comment on that, but in 68 weeks, a year and 4 months, people lost 32 pounds. But right in the study, 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. So we're now working with people on the shots that are still on the shots, but we're helping them to, helping them to not, or to diminish the amount of lean muscle they're actually losing. So there we're working in conjunction with the drugs, and because that's the downfall of the shot. Every person coming off it, they're gaining all the weight back. Talk to any of your friends that have done it, et cetera. And we support it in that it is, for some people that are so desperate, whether they're diabetic or maybe some that's obese and they've tried everything, and people are losing weight. But again, it's the wrong kind of weight. I'm sorry to say that. Not my opinion, based on what New England Journal of Medicine. Well, in the studies that these researchers did, I mean, it took them 68 weeks to lose 30 pounds. In these studies, men and women lost 16 pounds in a month with no loss of water, no loss of lean muscle. Are you a little bit curious? Just a little bit? So again, the thing that I would say is this, yes, the New Health Conversation, 87 countries, with no spaces, by the way. You can see it right there for the new people coming on. I apologize. Again, Amy, go to the New Health Conversation. I'm going to put it under your name again, just so you know it's the right link. And please go and look at the medical proof. We do not want you doing this without you getting to see all the medical proof. When you go to the website, let me be clear, we will not contact you because we want to give you the freedom to see the medical proof. Once you've seen the medical proof, which includes a major interview with the #1 nutritional weight loss physiologist researcher in the world for 38 years, who's conducted 150 studies on every diet out there. If you scroll down to the bottom, it says sign up for a free personal consultation. It's free with one of our coaches. It's someone who's done the program, has been trained to answer your question. They do a Zoom with you. And again, part of it is we don't know anything about you. Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want any medications? Like one lady came on and she's pregnant. Well, she can still do part of the program. She just can't do the full-blown program, okay? Same with nursing mothers. We have people that want to gain weight. We have athletes. We've got kids as young as 2 doing parts of this, and people in their 90s, okay? The consultation is 100% free, no gimmicks. They're not there to sell you. They're not going to convince you. They're going to show you exactly, based on what you want to accomplish, what's possible. And also, I should tell you, Amy, that if you heard me explain like what was involved, so 40% of the food you would buy from the grocery store, you get a grocery list that they used in the medical trials. But the other 5 foods that come from all over the world, from these fulfillment companies that they used in the studies that you can't buy at your grocery store or organic or Whole Foods, et cetera, those 5 foods, the fulfillment companies that offer those to you give you a 100%, no questions asked, money back guarantee in the first 30 days. So you have no risk. Your risk is you don't go to the website, you don't sign up for a free consultation, and we take it really, really seriously, okay? But honestly, just make sure, scroll down to the bottom and sign up for the free consultation once you've looked at all the medical proof, because that's the only thing there. My books aren't there. There's no celebrity endorsements. There's nothing but the medical proof. And there are before and afters that if I showed them on social media, I'd be banned. They're so dramatic. We got, men and women who, some of them lost as much as 100 pounds. They have no loose skin at all. I know it sounds crazy, but again, how does GPS work? I don't know. I mean, I do know how this works, obviously, but I'm just saying that I know it sounds preposterous, but if we would have told people, 30 years ago about the internet or about, Zoom or any of this stuff, they would have said, it's like science fiction, okay? So, wow. I can't believe I've been over 2 hours. I got to do some other things today because I promised some other people that I was going to come on around about 6, 5:30 or 6 Eastern time. So would anybody like to put any other question? Oh, anyone familiar with crypto? Why would you be talking about crypto? Well, you're coming on here and trying to sell stuff? Not really. We're not really excited about that. Let's see. So, I really wish people wouldn't do that. This is a medical, by the way, there's the website. I'm showing it to you right now. There's nothing, as you can see, Amy, there's nothing to buy there. There's just a medical proof, just to let you know. But anyway, I'm just dealing with something over here.
Dollar to 78 cents. Anyone familiar with crypto? SafePal wallet says not enough gas.
What?
I have 354 USDT. Any idea? 1 reflect 2. Away 3.
What
Text
in the
4.
world?
Echo 5.
Someone hijacked.
Avocado 6. Usage 7. Basket 8. Unusual.
This is
9.
crazy.
Jazz 10.
I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know what's going
11.
on.
A.
Okay, well, hopefully we got rid of them, whoever that was, all right? So anybody else, Tom or Sandra or James, do you have any questions for me? Look, I know it sounds too good to be true, and I don't know how to make it any, what more can I do? Free medical website. Nothing, you don't have to do anything to see all the medical proof, and if you like it, sign up for a free consultation. You get a free coach, and not me, but the fulfillment companies offer you 100% money back guarantee on 60%. You know, people ask about the cost. You know what most people tell me? That when they look at their food budget, what they were spending before they did this, that they're at a minimum spending probably as much as they were total, because only 40% of the food you're going to buy is from the grocery store. The other 60% from these, or maybe $50 or $100 more. But you got to take into account things like people don't, unless it's prescribed by a doctor, they don't need supplements when they go on this. I mean, so it may not be any more than you're spending right now. We don't know that until obviously you do your free consultation. But they're not there to trick you or sell you or twist your arm or bait and switch you, okay? So anybody else, would anybody else like to ask a question? And also my TikTok site, The New Health Conversation, I always appreciate people going and liking it. It expands my reach and my audience because I've committed to doing on an average about 3 of these podcasts a day, because I didn't know I was going to go 2 hours on this one. I get sidetracked in answering comments and doing all those wonderful things for everybody, and I lose track of time. But hopefully for the new people that came on, you get the gist of what we talked about. We proved to you that diets are failing us, and this new approach, which isn't a diet, which took 38 years for them to really discover and prove, where men and women are losing as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, losing as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, and losing no water and gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And you get to do a free evaluation with one of the coaches, and if you do decide to do it, the 60% of what you buy, it comes with a 100% money back guarantee. So I don't know, in that month, you may end up spending less. If you ask for a return, you're going to be spending a lot less than you are now. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and nothing's 100%, of course. But you have that assurance where you have no risk, no gimmicks, no tricks, okay? So anybody else like to comment? I guess not. So Amy, hopefully I answered your question. 870, I want to make sure that let me just make sure I didn't miss any other comments, which I do sometimes. Let's see. Check. Thank you. I'll check it out for sure. Absolutely check it out. How do you reduce cortisol? I talked about that. Sounds amazing. I was born without a thyroid. Okay, we're going to help you. Azita, Arlene, here. Okay, I think I answered all the questions of those that did put comments in there. I want to thank you so much for listening, and tell your friends about me, okay? The one thing I can say with absolute certainty is, as far as I know, we're the only podcast on social media showing you real medical proof, offering you free evaluation, free, and hopefully the information is going to be life-changing for you. Because if you're part of the 80% that's overweight, or the, God forbid, the 50% that are obese, I'm sure you'd like to change that if you could, in a safe, rapid way. Let's use the word rapid. Because obviously, if you're going to be pretty psyched up if you lose in 7 days what took you 8 weeks to lose, you're going to be pretty motivated to continue. So I'm going to sign off now, and I never know, because I got people on these from all over the world, right? So is it nighttime? Is it tomorrow? Is it morning? Is it late afternoon? Is it early evening? So I'll just say goodbye for now. That's the best way I can do it for all the listeners that are out there. And I hope you will take advantage of going to the website for free to see all the incredible science that's there. That's really, really encouraging for mankind, really, for all of us. This isn't some sales gimmick. It's not a infomercial. It's really about real science, and we're proud of the fact that we're able to provide that to you. And what you do with it, that's up to you. So I'm going to bid all of you good day and have a wonderful rest of whatever day, night, afternoon you're doing. Okay.